Hi, I'm Sharad Goel. I'm a professor of public policy at the Kennedy School. And this last semester, I've been teaching API 201. It's our core statistics sequence for all of the MPP students. And over the last year, like a lot of people, we've been thinking hard about generative AI and these large language models. And there are really two goals that we had in mind when we're experimenting with these things. So the first is, can we use this technology to improve the way that our students learn? And the second is this worry that we have that if we don't do something proactive to bring this technology into students' hands, then they're going to end up using these tools on their own in ways that might not be conducive to their learning. Our big intervention here was to build a Slack bot. So basically, we took the infrastructure of ChatGPT and we added our own prompts to that, and then embedded it into Slack, so a communication platform that a lot of our students use. And so the goal in designing the Slack bot was to ensure that students could ask questions the same way that they would interact with our teaching team and the same way that our teaching team would respond. We didn't want the chatbot to give them the answer to these questions. We wanted the bot to help them learn and to explore ideas. And so very similar to mimicking how we as a teaching team would help these students. This is our interface. We call it StatGPT instead of ChatGPT. It's tailored to do statistics. And there are a few different use cases. So the first, which we just rolled out a few weeks ago, is to help students study for the final. So a student can ask here, and my role here is I'm pretending to be a student. And you can ask, can you help me study for the final? And then here's a thread. I'm expanding the thread. And it says, of course, I'm here to help. And here are a bunch of topics that might be useful to explore. And these are topics that we told the Slack bot would be helpful for students to understand. And so now here I can say something like, to interpreting conditional probabilities. And now in real time, it's going to see if there's a little dancing robot here saying that it's thinking. And in a minute, it's going to try to generate a question that the students can answer. And then and so here you can see this question, conditional probabilities, and it's very similar to the types of questions that we ask on the exam. And then the student can answer this, and the chatbot will tell the student whether or not they're right or wrong in the ways that they might be able to improve their answer. And so that's one particular use case. Now, it knows about our class. And so if you say something like when are office hours, then it goes to our syllabus and it actually figures out, well, these are when office hours are. Here's a link to sign up for office hours with me. Can answer coding questions. So here I'm asking, how do you make a histogram in R? And again, the point here is not to give the answer entirely, but it asks first, do you have a specific data set? Are you familiar with ggplot2, this computing package that we use a lot of in our class? And then I say, okay, I'm somewhat familiar with the package, but I could use a refresher. And then it starts going through the mechanics of this package. Again, here's another example. So we talk about confidence intervals, and I say, oh, I'm confused about confidence intervals. Can you help me understand what they are? And it asks these questions like, oh, are you familiar with the difference between a sample and a population? And then helping the student work through that understanding rather than simply saying, this is the definition, this is the textbook definition of a confidence interval, which is useful, but is not exactly, I think, conducive to learning. And then finally, the Slackbot speaks multiple languages. So here I'm asking the exact same question about the confidence interval in Spanish, and it is giving me a response back in Spanish. And so about 50% of our students are from outside of the US. And so this type of feature is very useful for them. There are two big things that we learned. The first is that we could do it. So we weren't entirely sure that we could build this infrastructure and actually have it respond to student questions in a reasonable way. And for the most part, the answers were quite accurate. They were quite useful. And I would say they're generally on par with what we as a teaching team would have provided to the students. The second thing is that students actually used it and they seemed to like it. And so we were getting hundreds of questions every week from students. These were questions that I thought were very useful, where they were very good questions that the students were asking, but they weren't asking us on the teaching team, even in previous years when we were available and we didn't have this type of technology, they weren't asking us those questions. And so in my mind, this means that there was a whole set of questions that students had, but they just simply weren't getting that information from anywhere. And so this was, I think, very positive development that all of a sudden these questions are being answered. And the students seemed to like it a lot. So we surveyed them, and they said they appreciated this tool. They liked that it was always available. They said they liked how supportive it was. And on the teaching team, we always try to be supportive ourselves, but I think there's inclination that it feels like, some questions the students shouldn't be asking us, like they should already know the answer. Now, of course, that's not true. It's like we're always there to help them, and we want them to ask anything that they're confused about. But I think that they are in many ways more comfortable interacting with these types of chatbots than they are with sometimes interacting with us on the teaching team. We piloted this for statistics, but what we're really trying to do now is roll this out into a wide variety of courses, particularly writing intensive courses, more qualitative evidence oriented courses. And so this presents an entirely new set of challenges, and that's something that we're hoping to explore next semester.